Right now, run your finger along the temple of your glasses, or just feel that barely there moist lens on the surface of your eye. You probably think this tiny item ended up on your face thanks to humane science, caring doctors, and your own free choice. But it didn't. The shape of the frame on your face, the polymer in your lens, and the very fact you can read this text clearly, that's the result of medieval conspiracies, contract killings, massive venereal pandemics, and secret cocaine experiments. How you see this world was decided for you centuries ago, and you're still paying the price. Let's go back to the 13th century. Picture Europe back then. For anyone over 40, the world sank into a gray blur. Presbyopia back then was a social death sentence. Book copyists in monasteries, archivists, lawyers, scholars. At some point, they all just went blind for their work. The only salvation was so-called reading stones, hemispheres of cloudy beryl or quartz. You'd slide them directly across the parchment lines. The image would double, blur, but it was the only way to extend your intellectual life. And then, in Venice, a quiet but powerful technological explosion happened. Local craftsmen found the formula for purity. They learned to melt white quartz sand with ash from specific seaweed imported from the Levant. The result was completely clear glass, free of cloudy bubbles and grit. They called it cristallo. From it, they began cutting the first convex lenses in history, which magnified objects without terrible edge distortions. The Venetian Republic immediately understood. This wasn't just a medical crutch, it was a powerful geopolitical tool. Whoever controlled the vision of kings, ministers, copyists, and merchants across Europe controlled information, laws, and trade itself. So Venice decided to hide this technology so that no one in the world could replicate it. In 1291, the government made a harsh decision. Under the pretext of fire prevention, all glassblowers were forcibly relocated from Venice to the tiny, isolated island of Murano in the lagoon. But it wasn't about safety. Murano became the world's first closed technology zone, essentially a golden prison. Leaving the island without a special permit meant confiscation of property. 4 years later, in 1295, the Great Council passed a law that sent chills down your spine. Any master who secretly left the Republic and tried to give the secret of cristallo melting to foreigners was declared a traitor and automatically sentenced to death. To track fugitives, the Council of Ten, Venice's secret police, used professional hitmen. Archives preserve the case of a master named Giordano, who managed to escape to Normandy and set up his own furnace for making clear glass. He thought he was safe. 2 years later, they found him on a street in Rouen with his throat cut. Venetian agents left no witnesses. The technology had to bring gold only into Venice's treasury. It was inside this bloody syndicate that the first glasses were born. They looked ridiculous. 2 lenses in a horn or wooden frame, connected by a simple iron nail or rivet. Scissors glasses. They had no temples, they didn't stay on your ears. You either held them in your hand or squeezed them hard onto the bridge of your nose, gritting your teeth against the pain of the pinched skin. But owning a pair of glasses back then was a mark of power and wealth, like having access to a secret quantum computer today. Venice set the prices. Venice decided which aging European monarch would still be able to read treaties and which would be left helpless and blind. The first step toward you being able to clearly see the faces of your loved ones today was taken under the watchful eye of executioners guarding a trade secret. But once Venice's monopoly collapsed and the secret of clear glass spread across the world, why didn't glasses become comfortable? Their shape for centuries to come wasn't changed by ergonomic concerns, but by a terrifying disease that disfigured the faces of millions. A disease that forced people to literally tie glasses to their heads with strings and mount them into wigs. We tend to think of technological progress as a straight line, from inconvenient to convenient. But in the 16th century, the history of eyeglasses takes a sharp, almost grotesque turn. Syphilis sweeps across Europe. A devastating pandemic called, depending on whose side you were fighting, the French disease or the Neapolitan disease. For people back then, it was a nightmare. In its later stages, the bacterium Treponema pallidum would literally eat away the cartilage of the face. The nasal bridge collapsed and the nose sank into the skull, leaving a characteristic hollow. In medicine, it's called saddle nose. It wasn't just a physical defect, it was a mark of shame. Anyone who saw you immediately knew exactly how you'd been spending your nights. Now imagine the everyday tragedy. You're a wealthy aristocrat, a judge, or a banker. You need to read documents, sign verdicts, check bills of exchange. As you age, your eyesight fails. But all eyeglasses of that era stayed on solely by pinching the bridge of the nose. Temples that went over the ears hadn't been invented yet, so you hit a wall. You desperately need lenses, but there's literally nothing to put them on. The bridge of your nose has been destroyed by disease. It was this dead end that triggered the strangest engineering shift in the history of optics. Artisans began inventing crazy ways to attach glasses to the head. There were glasses with leather straps that tied at the back of the head, cutting off blood circulation. Craftsmen mounted lenses directly into the brims of heavy felt hats. To read, you had to pull the hat down over your eyes. But the most popular solution was massive powdered wigs. Into their thick, lard-soaked strands, they wove strong threads from which heavy lenses dangled in front of the wearer's eyes. For those who could afford it, jewelers crafted artificial noses from silver, copper, or wax-covered leather. These prosthetics were painted to match the skin tone and strapped to the head. And then, corrective lenses were riveted permanently onto these metal noses with iron rivets. The design of eyeglasses for the next 2 centuries was dictated by the need to hide the aftermath of a venereal catastrophe. In the 17th century, this forced absurdity turned into an official cult. In Spain, under King Philip IV, glasses suddenly became the ultimate status symbol. Spanish grandees wore giant contraptions on their faces. The lenses were as big as saucers, and the frames were made from the shell of the rarest sea turtle. The size of these glasses directly indicated how rich and influential you were. At Philip's court, wearing a tortoiseshell frame on your face became mandatory etiquette for all high nobility. It got absurd. Aristocrats with perfect eyesight ordered these heavy contraptions and had plain window glass without any prescription put in them. Those who couldn't afford tortoiseshell bought cheap copies made of painted wood, deliberately weighting them with lead to make the glasses seem even heavier. But behind all this pomp was a cynical truth. When all the nobility are wearing huge, face-covering contraptions, an aristocrat disfigured by syphilis, with a silver prosthetic nose and lenses strapped to it, no longer looks like an outcast. He looks ultra-fashionable. The mass fashion for giant glasses became the perfect cover for the physical decay of the ruling class. However, while saving their reputation and status, people never considered the deadly threat these glasses carried. Because up until at the start of the 20th century, any fall, accidental bump, or everyday mishap could turn your glasses into a handful of razor-sharp daggers right into your eyeball. And the only solution was a horrifying surgery performed without anesthesia or antibiotics. Have you ever thought about just how fragile your safety really is? These days, if you accidentally drop your glasses, the worst that happens is a trip to the optician. But before the 20th century, wearing glasses was like walking through a minefield. Every single day, you'd have 2 fragile pieces of mineral glass right in front of your eyes. Imagine this: you slip on a cobblestone, get into a carriage accident, or just get jostled in a crowd. The glass would shatter instantly into dozens of razor-sharp shards. And all that broken glass, under pressure, would drive deep into the tissues of your eye. It would pierce your cornea, slice through your lens, and lodge itself inside. In the 19th century, when medicine didn't even know about antibiotics yet, that meant blindness. There was simply no way to remove those tiny fragments from the soft tissues of the eye. In 90% of cases, a severe, pus-filled infection would set in. The infection could travel along the optic nerve straight to the brain at any moment, causing deadly sepsis. To save the patient's life, ophthalmologists had only one option left: immediate enucleation. The doctor would take a special spoon-shaped knife and literally scoop the infected eyeball out of the socket, often without anesthesia, without antiseptics. A person would end up disabled just because they tripped while wearing glasses on the street. This nightmare was stopped by a French chemist named Edouard Benedictus in 1903, and it was a complete accident that helped him. He was working in his lab and accidentally knocked a glass flask off a shelf. The flask plummeted to the floor. Benedictus braced himself to clean up the mess, but the container didn't break. It was covered in a dense web of cracks, but it held its shape. It turned out that the flask had been holding a liquid solution of cellulose nitrate for a long time. The water had evaporated, leaving a tough, transparent film on the inside walls. That film had held the shards together. Benedictus immediately realized the scale of his discovery and patented the technology under the name triplex, the first multi-layer shatterproof glass. At first, it was used in gas masks on the fronts of World War I. Then it moved into cars, and only later into optics. Glasses finally stopped being a hidden danger on your face. But while physicists were solving the problem of glass strength, ophthalmologists were trying to pull off an even crazier move. They wanted to take glasses off people's faces entirely and put the lens right onto the eyeball. In 1888, a Swiss doctor named Adolf Fick created the first contact lenses. But forget about those soft, moist discs you can pop in a second today. Fick's lenses were hand-blown from heavy glass. They were about 20 millimeters in diameter. This glass shell covered not just your cornea, but the entire visible part of the white of your eye. The enormous weight of the design and rough edges caused patients excruciating pain. The eye is incredibly sensitive. The tiniest speck of dust makes your eyelids clamp shut reflexively. To get a person to voluntarily shove a heavy chunk of faceted glass under their eyelid, Fick had to go to extremes. Before the procedure, he would literally flood patients' eyes with a concentrated cocaine solution. At the end of the 19th century, that was the only local anesthetic available. Cocaine numbed the nerve endings, the protective reflex shut down, and only then could Fick shove the glass dome under the eyelid. But the nightmare didn't end there. The human cornea is unique. It has no blood vessels. It breathes oxygen directly from the air. Fick's glass shell completely blocked oxygen access. The cornea started to suffocate. Instant swelling would set in. The maximum wear time for those lenses was exactly 2 hours. If the patient didn't remove them in time, the glass lens would stick to the eye and start ripping away the delicate epithelium, leaving the person blind. It seemed like those cocaine-infused glass shells were destined to stay in the past, making way for modern, lightweight plastics. But when medicine made the mass switch to plastic lenses in the mid-20th century, patients' eyes started suffocating all over again. The body would trigger a horrific compensatory response. Blood vessels would begin to grow right into the transparent pupil, robbing the person of sight. Salvation came from a country no one expected, and the device that saved millions of eyes was assembled in an ordinary kitchen using children's toys. After World War II, it seemed like the solution had finally arrived. In 1948, American optician Kevin Toohey patented lenses made from lightweight plastic. No more heavy glass. These plastic discs became tiny. They only covered the cornea and stayed in place thanks to the tear film. But this triumph came at a cost. Toohey's plastic was rigid and completely impermeable to air. The cornea still couldn't get oxygen. When oxygen deprivation becomes chronic, the body triggers an emergency survival mode. Since the cornea can't breathe through the air, the body tries to supply it with oxygen via the bloodstream. That's when neovascularization kicks in. Tiny blood vessels from the white of the eye start aggressively growing right into the clear cornea. The eye becomes covered in a red mesh of capillaries. This led to irreversible clouding of the pupil and blindness. What's more, removing these rigid discs at the end of the day was pure torture. Because of surface tension, the lens would stick to the eye like glue. Trying to pry it off with a fingernail meant damaging the cornea. Patients had to buy special rubber suction cups. You'd press this suction cup against your pupil and literally rip the plastic off your eye. The solution to this problem wasn't born in the labs of American corporations, but on an ordinary kitchen counter in a Prague apartment block. In 1961, Czechoslovak chemist Otto Victorla synthesized hydrogel. This was a polymer that was nearly half water and freely let oxygen through. Salvation from blindness for millions of people. But the Communist Ministry of Health in Czechoslovakia dismissed the project as nonsense. Funding was cut, the lab was shut down, and the equipment was ordered destroyed. But Viktorla didn't give up. On Christmas Eve 1961, he started assembling a device on his kitchen table that would revolutionize ophthalmology. Using parts from a children's Merkur metal construction set, a bicycle dynamo magnet, and an old phonograph motor, he built a centrifugal casting machine. The idea was simple. Liquid polymer dripped into tiny, spinning molds. Centrifugal force spread the material perfectly along the walls, creating a smooth optical surface. Over the holiday break, on this toy-like setup, Viktorla and his wife hand-cast the first 5,000 soft lenses. When the Czechoslovak bureaucrats realized the technology actually worked, they acted cynically. The state nationalized the patent, sidelined the scientist, and secretly sold the rights to the invention to the American corporation Bausch & Lomb for a paltry $330,000. The Americans launched production and made billions off it, creating a global monopoly. The inventor himself never got a single cent from the deal. He continued working for a modest salary for the rest of his life, while the optics giants divvied up the market he created. Soft lenses conquered hypoxia and became the standard. We got the perfect tool to control our vision. But right now, just as technology has reached its peak, humanity is facing a new, invisible epidemic. Right now, the eyes of millions of people around the world are physically changing shape, deforming under the influence of our lifestyle. And the cause isn't smartphone screens like we were taught as kids. The truth goes much deeper. You've definitely heard it before. Stop ruining your eyes with that phone. For decades, we've been told that an entire generation going blind is a direct result of glowing screens, reading under the covers, and sitting in the dark. But that's a myth. Recent clinical studies have completely debunked that theory. The real reason humanity is rapidly losing its eyesight is far more mundane. According to the World Health Organization, by the year 2050, exactly half the global population will be nearsighted. In Asian megacities, that number has already hit 90% among high school graduates. Our eyes are physically deforming. They're turning from round spheres into elongated ovals like chicken eggs, and the culprit is light starvation. Here's how it works. Normal eye growth in children is regulated by dopamine, which is produced in the retina. If there's enough dopamine, the eye stays spherical. If not, the sclera, the eye's outer shell, loses rigidity, becomes elastic, and the eyeball starts stretching lengthwise. Just 1 millimeter of elongation shifts the focus backward, giving you nearsightedness of -3 diopters. But for the retina to produce that dopamine, it needs to be hit with light of a certain intensity, at least 10,000 lux for several hours a day. You can only get that much light outdoors, under the open sky, even on a cloudy day. In any office or classroom, even the brightest ones, that number rarely exceeds 500 lux. We've basically locked our kids inside concrete boxes with dim lighting. Their retinas stopped making dopamine, their eyes started mutating, stretching, desperately trying to catch a few more photons. Nearsightedness isn't a gadget disease. It's a physical cry from bodies trapped within 4 walls. And how do we solve this problem? We buy disposable soft contact lenses. Perfect fix, clean little discs you put on in the morning and toss at night. But this convenience has sparked an invisible disaster, one that optics manufacturers prefer to keep quiet about. Modern soft lenses are made of silicone hydrogel. That's a durable plastic that doesn't break down naturally, and it's very slippery. About 20% of users flush used lenses down the sink or toilet every day. In the United States alone, over 3 billion lenses go down the drain each year. At wastewater treatment plants, standard filters simply don't catch them. Their flexibility lets them slip right through the grates. Once inside bacteria-filled tanks, they don't dissolve. They just break into billions of invisible particles, microplastics. This plastic sludge settles at the bottom of the tanks. Water utilities dry it out and sell it to farmers as cheap fertilizer for fields. Rain washes those microplastic particles into groundwater, then into rivers, and from there into the ocean. Plankton, fish, and shellfish swallow them. The circle is complete. Microplastics from contact lenses are already being found in the muscle tissue of commercial fish and in the table salt in our kitchens. Through the food chain, humanity is literally consuming its own discarded optics. We've built a world where we first robbed ourselves of sunlight by hiding in boxes. Then we created billions of plastic shields just to see clearly again. And now we're eating that plastic, clogging our own internal organs. We tried so desperately to focus on the details of this world that we've gone completely blind, not even noticing we're eating our own artificial eyes. Eyes